Guys, today on Texas Cooking Today, we are making an absolutely delicious cheese lasagna. What'll you try this one out? Well, howdy folks. Welcome to Texas Cooking Today. I'm Stuart Trotter, your host. Today we're going to be preparing some wonderful, delicious food. And what you're watching here, this is one of my tutorials. So if you're looking for all of the answers and all of the details about this recipe, you found the right video. If you just need the recipe, watch the previous episode. That's what that is. And thank you very much for watching. Now, let's get into this. Well guys, as you've seen, it's a beautiful lasagna dish. This is a basic cheese lasagna. Now, as far as where the recipe comes from, this is one of my own recipes. This is one that I spent many years developing and working out some of the little twists and turns and learning certain real truths about making Italian dishes, pasta dishes. There's some really cool things that I'm going to teach you. Some things that you may not expect. So what we're going to do is we're going to get in the kitchen. We're going to prepare our cheeses. We're going to make our own marinara. We're going to make our own pasta. Don't be shy about this. It's a little egg and flour, and to make it and roll it out isn't hard. It only takes a rolling pin. This is a wonderful recipe. It's fun to make. And when you've tried it, I think you're going to have a new one on your recipe list. Well guys, I tell you what, without wasting any further time, let's get in the kitchen. Let's take a look at these ingredients and get busy cooking this up. Come on. All right, guys, we have some great ingredients here to make a fantastic cheese lasagna. And of course, it's all about the cheese. I have 3 different kinds. We've got whole milk ricotta, mozzarella, and Parmesan cheese. Plus, we're going to be using some spinach down in that cheese to bring out just a little extra flavor and a much more healthy dish. I have some tomato paste. We're going to be using a light wine here. I have a white Zinfandel. You can use a blush, a rosé, but you don't want anything dark and heavy for this. You want it to be a light, tangy flavor for this particular dish. I've got some flour to make our pasta with, of course, eggs, olive oil, some oregano and basil to flavor up our marinara, and it is going to be really good. We're going to do this in a series of steps, guys. The first step, pasta making. Number 1, to make pasta is really super simple. And I want to show you that right off. And once you see how easy it is, you're going to say, I can do that. Once you realize how much easier it is to do lasagna with fresh pasta, you're never going to buy that dry stuff ever again. Oh, you're going to hate that stuff. So once you learn this, you're going to love it. Pasta making is first because it has to rest. Then we're going to make our marinara. And then while that's simmering, I'm going to chop up that spinach, mix it in with the ricotta cheese. After that, we can roll out the pasta and assemble the whole thing and then get it baked. Guys, this is a fun dish to make, and it's so delicious and so healthy. When we get into this, you're going to be surprised. So I'll tell you what, let's start making our pasta. Let's get at it. Now folks, when it comes to making pasta, it's a pretty simple proposition. You need to put your flour onto a surface or in a bowl that you can work it out in. And I like to make a well in the middle. Now this is sort of tradition, and I'll explain this tradition. The reason this was done, and of course, you know, pasta's made in different ways, sometimes with flour, sometimes with semolina, but it always works the same way. We start by beating the eggs in the middle of the flour, and thereby slowly incorporating that flour into the egg, and thereby we don't get lumps or anything in our pasta because it mixes in slowly and well. And this works very well. So I've put my flour into this, as you've seen here, and I have a little dimple in the bottom of it there for my eggs. So I'm going to put my eggs down in here. For our olive oil, we want about 1 to 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil. A half a teaspoon of salt is more than enough. Some people like a little bit saltier pasta. If you want to go up to 1 teaspoon, do that. At this point, all I have to do is break my yolks and beat these and slowly work that flour in. As you can see, hey, this isn't just a big challenge, is it? All I have to do is bring this into a good, solid, single ball. If you'd like, you can either flour your hand. I just like to use a glove because it makes for quick cleanup. There we go. A little bit of extra flour because it was rather sticky. And I'm going to put this in a plastic bag and seal it up. Give it about 30 minutes of time. Once it's been sealed up in plastic, it'll be just fine. So as you see, I mixed it. It's now workable, kind of elastic. That's going to be just fine. Now this extra flour, I'm going to save this to work my pasta out with my rolling pin in a little bit. Well guys, this is easy enough at this point. Our marinara, we're just going to put some wine in there, and we're looking for anywhere from around 1 to 1.5 cups of wine. You can go as much as 2 cups if you like, but it's just not necessary. And I'm going to work that in. I've got about 1 cup of wine in there now, and I'm going to add just a little more. I'm going to add some water also. So what I'm looking for here, I'm looking for the consistency of an extremely thin marinara. The whole idea of our marinara being really super thin is the water from the marinara and from the ricotta cheese cooks into the pasta. We don't have to pre-cook our pasta because of this technique right here. Now remember, when I say we don't have to pre-cook that pasta, I'm talking about using fresh pasta, not dried store-bought pasta. Okay, and that equals about 2 cups of water, and I'm probably going to add about 1 more cup of water to this, guys. And let's go ahead and get our spices in here. Okay, so that's about a ½ teaspoon of salt. I want a couple of tablespoons of my basil. There we go. And a couple of teaspoons of that oregano. Now understand, the oregano is very pungent. It's a strong flavor, especially relative to the basil and that tomato. So you need to balance those herbs just the right way. I'll work in 1 more cup of water and we're ready to simmer. And as I mentioned before, it does look too thin. Do not worry about this, okay? The thinning of this sauce is absolutely necessary for this particular pasta, for this particular dish to come out the right way. The excessive moisture content from this is going to cook into that pasta. It thereby thickens the sauce, it cooks the pasta off, thereby hydrating it also, and brings balance into the entire dish. Guys, let's go ahead and chop up our spinach. We don't have to do an elegant job about this. We just need to make sure the pieces of spinach are small so they fit down in that cheese well. When you're doing this, grab the knife the right way. Choke up on the handle by pinching the blade, thumb and first finger. Just like that. Wrap those other fingers around it so you get a good control on that. If you grab the handle like this, the blade can twist in your hand and it can injure you, all right? So you want to get a better grip by doing this. It's a choke up and it works well. The other hand, you need to make sure those fingers are turned under, just like this. That way the edge will not make contact with the tips of your fingers with the side of the knife coming up and down on that center knuckle, okay? So that's a much safer way to cut. Keep the thumb behind those fingers. Now I'm going to glove up to do this, guys. When we're doing cutting like this, you simply want to gather your leaves, just kind of bunch them up. You can be a little rough with them. Don't worry about it too much. It won't hurt anything. After all, they're about to get chopped all to pieces. Now, as I mentioned, when you're finished, you're going to want about 1.5 to 2 cups of chopped spinach, all right? We're close to that right there. There we are. Let's get this down in our cheese. There we go. Down in our cheese, we're ready to mix it up. Okay guys, now let's get this all mixed in here. Now something I need to say at this point, and this is really important. don't try to do this with frozen or canned spinach. I actually tried a lasagna once where somebody had tried using canned spinach, and it was the most ghastly, abominable thing I think I've ever tasted in my life. Do not do that to yourself or anyone else that may end up eating your lasagna, okay? So only fresh spinach if you're going to use spinach. All right, it looks like I've got a good even mixture on my spinach and my ricotta. That looks good, doesn't it, guys? Very tasty. Guys, it's been over 30 minutes on our pasta. Now I'm going to go ahead and get it out of this package. I'll get this turned out on a floured board. Now when you're handling pasta like this, it can be really sticky, so go ahead and just add a little bit of flour to your hands. At this point, I want to go ahead and put a little bit more flour on this. It's just going to make it manageable. I'm going to use a pastry knife or any other kind of knife for that matter you can use, and cut your pasta in half, 2 pieces. What I want to do is to simply roll this out. Before I do that though, I'm just going to press it a little bit just to get it started. So guys, as you see, this is not just really too tough, is it? And you see how well the pasta is rolling out. You know, again, it's all about resting it. If you rest that pasta, it becomes a lot more workable. Now, if you know, I'm not making a very neat sheet of pasta. It doesn't have to be pretty, guys. We're going to cut it out to fit the dish. So after I get that rolled out, I'm going to flip it over, dust it with flour on the other side again, and then I'm just going to kind of fold it and set it aside. I want to do the other piece the same exact way. Okay, now I have done both of my sheets of pasta, and I just have to set those aside, clean up my board, and we can start building us a lasagna. Once we have our pasta all rolled out, we need to cut it to fit our dish. So what I'm going to do is just make my sheets the size of the bottom of this dish. That way I can put in a whole sheet for my pasta. It works really smooth and easy this way, guys. It's really quick. That was our first sheet of pasta that I did. Not a very pretty thing. It looks more like an animal hide the way it's rolled out. Let's go ahead and place our dish right on top of that. I'm just going to cut along that bottom edge. Give myself something of an edge to work off of. So nice large sheets like that we can simply take and drop right down into our pan just like so. And that makes an entire layer of pasta that way, guys. Isn't that cool? Okay, so we want to do a couple of sheets like that, and then I'll use my scraps for the third layer of pasta on top. Okay, this is really cool. So now we have our base sheets ready to go. We just need to assemble this thing. Well guys, we've come to the part where we're actually going to build this dish, and we're going to do it in layers. Remember, we made this sauce thin for a reason. We need the extra moisture in it to cook off our pasta. Okay? So I'm going to put a generous helping of the sauce on the bottom of this dish. The piece of pasta I cut for my bottom. You can go in there now. So you see, you don't have to be pretty with this. Just get it down in there. Let's get some of our cheese in there. Now there's really no clean, easy way of doing this, so I found just kind of pressing it out into some little flats and dropping those in there seems to work well for me. Okay? Not so difficult. Next, let's put some of our mozzarella. It doesn't take much, just a little bit over that. And that adds sort of a stringy, kind of thickening quality to that layer of cheese. The next layer that we do on this is another layer of our pasta. Sometimes you'll have a strip left, not a problem. You have pieces to fill in there, remember? There's one of them. And there's another one. Okay? So that's the way you do fresh pasta. It works out really well. Now I'm going to kind of press this down just slightly, only to push out any air. And then we go in with more of our sauce. Same way I did the first time, being generous with it. It's gorgeous, isn't it, guys? Now, we're coming near the end of what we have to do here. We've got 2 layers of pasta. I can go for a third if I want, but sometimes it causes a dish like this to bubble over. Okay, let's not worry too much about that little issue. But we're going to do our cheese in the reverse order from before. So this time, a little mozzarella. We're going to top over that with more of our ricotta. This time I'm going to go just maybe a hair thinner with it, not much. So I have used up all of my ricotta. Let's add that final layer. Now guys, I have made a really full dish here, which is another way of saying there's almost a 100% certainty that some of this is going to bubble over the edges. Now frankly, I'm not going to lose sleep over the thought that some of it might go over the edge. Big deal. It's not an issue. Because I'm going to put a pan underneath this. I'm going to use a sheet pan on the lower rack as I cook this at 350 degrees on my center rack. And now for our Parmesan. As I mentioned, you can do a mixture, either just Parmesan or you can do Parmesan and mozzarella for this part. So just take your pick. Now guys, as I mentioned, put a sheet underneath this in the oven, because with it this full, it is going to bubble over. There it is, 1 cheese lasagna ready to go. It's time for this to be in the oven, guys. Let's go ahead and get it down in there. And like I said, get you a rack or a pan on that lower rack. Put this one on the middle rack. All right, there we go, guys. That's back down in the oven now. We're going to be cooking that up at 350 degrees. It's not going to take that long. I've just got to melt the cheese on top, bring the center temperature up to 165 degrees, and the lasagna is cooked and ready to go. That's all there is to it. So as you see, making fresh pasta lasagna isn't that tough. It takes out the step of boiling the pasta and draining the pasta, cooling it down so you can handle it, and all of that business. It's not necessary. This method works better. Wait till you try it. Now, just give it some time, we'll let it cook. Well guys, this has come out of the oven now. There were a few drips on the corners, but nothing substantial. And now I'm just waiting for it to firm up, cool down a little bit. That usually takes around 25 minutes. So just kind of be patient with it. But let's take a close look down at that edge. Isn't that beautiful? That gorgeous lasagna, perfectly designed. Oh man, I can't wait to enjoy this. Now for the quantities on your recipe here, we're going to start with 1.5 pounds of that ricotta, and you're going to use 1 to 1.5 pounds of mozzarella and 8 ounces of the shredded Parmesan cheese. You can also use Romano for this if you want. That works out well. As far as how much spinach, well, let's put it this way. After it's fine chopped, you're looking for about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of fine chopped spinach. We started with 12 ounces of tomato paste, and well, you see how much we used on the wine, and that's pretty much to taste. Never more than about 2 cups is my personal belief. On the olive oil, generally takes about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half for that pasta. The flour, we use 2 cups of flour for our pasta with 4 eggs. As I mentioned, the olive oil about a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half on the pasta, and then 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt in our pasta. In the marinara, in addition to the wine and the tomato paste, 12 ounces of tomato paste, we used 2 tablespoons of basil, 2 teaspoons of oregano, and 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of salt. And that's the whole recipe right there, guys. Nothing more to it than that. Clean, simple, delicious, and as you've seen, it works well. Well, guys, this has come out of the oven. It has had about 30 minutes to cool, just enough so that the upper part of the dish is cooled enough to handle. The bottom is still very hot. So what I want to do is I just want to cut through this guy. I think a little bit of bread with this would be nice. There we have it. Lovely lasagna. Oh yeah. Guys, cheesy. Cheesy. Wonderful flavor. Beautiful tasting sauce that's in it. This is going to be the kind of lasagna that your kids are going to be asking you to make, your friends are going to be asking you to make. Everyone is going to want some of this. Oh man. Spot on delicious. That's a really good recipe. I can't wait for you guys to try this. You're going to be really impressed when you do. It's a fantastic dish. I would like to say thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today, for watching this episode. If you would, please subscribe. Please put a comment down below. I appreciate that. Give this recipe a try, and when you do, tell me what you think about it. And folks, I'd like to say thank you one more time. I do appreciate it. And if you would, hey, have you a good day, okay? Bye-bye. Well, there it is, guys. Texas Cooking Today tutorial. Thank you very much for watching this show and for watching Texas Cooking Today. If you would, please go to my channel. Check out what I have there. There's some wonderful recipes and some great tutorials waiting for you to try. Again, thank you very much.